Obsession is the number one thing that's going to determine how great of a physique that you get, because there is no great physique without you being completely and utterly obsessed with what it takes to actually get there. Everyone likes to talk about, oh, you need a calorie deficit. You need to do your cardio. You need to do all your steps and get your workouts in. But no one actually talks about the mentality that goes behind that, right? It's more than just a deficit. It's more than just showing up every single day and going through the motions. No, you have to be completely obsessed with the process. You have to be completely detached, however, from the actual end goal, right? You need to get this vision of you with a six-pack out of your head completely. You have to stop thinking about the six-pack every single day and obsessing over that end goal. Rather, you need to obsess over the process. Everyone talks about the process and what it takes to actually get there, but you have to obsess over that, right? Because once you start obsessing over the inputs of what it takes to get there, you get to a place where you hyperfixate on the actual process of what it takes to get there. The final end result of you being ripped with a six-pack just comes naturally because you weren't even focused on it to begin with. So in order to actually attract a great physique, you don't just want to manifest it, imagine it, think about it, and kind of just like envision where you want to go. Yes, that's important and it has its role. You have to match that with the law of action. The law of action states that, okay, in order to actually get said result of, a six-pack, a ripped physique, being super lean, you have to first put in the inputs to actually get there. There can be no law of action without the law of manifestation. Just like there can be no law of manifestation without the law of action. They both have to coincide. The law of manifestation will tell you exactly the roadmap as to, where you're trying to get to. But the actions are what you do every single day in order to act on that roadmap, in order to get the physique goal, right? There can be no law of action without the law of manifestation. The manifestation is you telling yourself your goals, exactly where you're trying to get to, and the law of action is what you do every single day in order to get you closer to that goal. You can't just simply envision the goal that you want. You can't just simply envision the six-pack that you want and not put in the actions in order to get there. They have to coincide together. You have to be completely obsessed. And that's the only way you ever get a great physique, because there is no half in, half out, right? If you give 50% effort and you're half in, half out, guess what? You're gonna get 50% of results. Why is the average body fat in America for a male 27%? 27% is the average body fat for a normal American male. And why is that? Because it's normalized. It's super normal to not be obsessed, to not give it your all. And you know what? That's why most guys are average. That's why most guys are out of shape, because they're not willing to be obsessed over the process and actually what it takes to get a great physique. You don't just wake up one day after eating a deficit, just doing a little bit of cardio, moving a little bit more, eating a little bit less food, and maybe a couple whole foods here and there. You have to be 100% committed. You have to be 100% in. Because in order to get a result that 99% of people don't have, you have to be willing to do what 99% of people are not willing to do. 99% of people are not willing to eat in a deficit. 99% of people are not willing to do their cardio consistently. And 99% of people are not willing to show up to the gym for weeks on end, see absolutely no progress, and continue pushing every day. You have to be a little bit crazy up here. People are going to think you're insane. And this is why I always get back to that psychopath mentality, because people are going to think you're psychopathic because of how much you're putting in, right? When I started my fitness journey, it was crazy. The amount of people that hated on me and told me that I was crazy because, I played college baseball, and, before our road trip games and before we'd go on the bus and, drive an hour or two to our away games, I would come on the bus with, a little packet of it'd be a cup full of grapes, cup full of strawberries. I'd come onto that bus with my little pre-portioned meal prep. I'd be eating ground beef and rice. Sometimes it was cold on the freaking bus on the way to a baseball game because I was obsessed. And when, the game would finish, we'd be on our way back home. Usually they'd pick us up some food. It'd usually be pizza, calzones. It'd be maybe a sandwich or a sub, or sometimes it was these massive Chipotle bowls. And what did I do? I didn't eat it. because I was so focused on what it actually took to get to my goal of being 10% body fat that I shut out everything else around me. I didn't listen to my friends' opinions. I didn't listen to my family's opinions. I didn't listen to random people's opinions that I didn't even know. I totally, I lived in a bubble. The only people that I listened to was my fitness coach, Evan, and that was basically it. I wasn't listening to anyone else. I was so focused on the end goal as to what it would take to become 10% body fat. I obsessed over it every single day. What it actually took to get there. Was the version of me at 10% body fat eating out with my friends whenever we'd be on the way back from a road game? Would the version of me at 10% body fat be eating my meal prep on the bus if that was the only time I had to eat it? Yes, he would. Would he be eating fruit before a game instead of Rice Krispie treats or some other junk food meal? Yes, he would. Start to live in alignment with the version of you who's 10% body fat, 12% body fat. How does that person operate? How does that person think? What does he do on a day-to-day basis that has allowed him to get to that point? These are questions you got to ask yourself, because if you are not willing to obsess over the process to the point where other people think you are insane and you have issues, you are not obsessed enough. Because 99% of people, they're out of shape. They live in their own sort of bubble. They live in their own sort of box in their life. And anything outside of that box is considered weird. Meal prepping, considered an eating disorder, considered weird. People look at it and they think it's unhealthy. They think it's weird because it's been so normalized to eat junk food, to be out of shape, that anything outside of that is seen as insane. In order to get a result that 99% of people don't have, you have to be the 1%, and the 1% is the person that is obsessed, the person who trusts the process, and the person who goes all in. 50-50, 50% in, 50% out is going to get you 50% of results. 100% in, 0% out is going to get you 100% of the results. If you want to have an elite physique, you have to be so obsessed to the point where people think that you're a psychopath, people think that you're a maniac, people think you have genuine issues. Because once you start having people question what you're doing, and people questioning how you look, and people are questioning, just the way that you live your life, and they think it's cringy, they think it's weird, that's how you know that you are truly on the way to building elite physique, because it's going to be seen as weird, it's going to be seen as abnormal, and people are going to question you, people are going to judge you, people are going to look at you and say, what the heck is that guy doing? And once you get people who think that way, congratulations, you are on your way to becoming 10% body fat.